Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hi, I'm Marla Goldberg, and you're with Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm so pleased and excited to introduce to you my guest for today, Cliff Matsuno. Cliff is an integrative manual therapist and a somatic physical therapist. His approach views the body's dysfunction or pain patterns as a reflection of specific mental or behavioral imbalances, along with physical pathology. He treats complex or comprehensive clients who have not gotten results from either traditional or alternative healthcare. Cliff has been honing his mind and body integration techniques for 40 years. Welcome, Cliff.
Hey, thank you, Marla. Pleasure.
I'm so happy to have you here. Let's talk about the beginning. How did you get started with somatic healing arts?
Well, it started with my own injury in gymnastics in high school. And so I went to physical therapy and thought, wow, this is a pretty cool profession. Although once I graduated, it was like, there's something missing to this. So I was raised in a Japanese-American family, and we used to have acupuncturists and people who did Oriental medicine coming over the house. This is when acupuncture was illegal. And so I used to smell moxa, and I used to see my grandmother and my sister get better overnight. And when I went to school, it's like, there's something missing to this. And so that's when I went to the Bay Area. And this is the old group of the people who were at a place called Esalen. And some
I've heard
old
of
body
Esalen.
working,
Yeah.
all the old body workers and psychologists. And yeah. And then I ran into a man named Don Schwartz that just changed my life. He was a hypnotherapist besides a physical therapist, but he was trained by Milton Erickson. And so the first day I'm going into his office to observe, he pulls on my shoulder, and he's blind. And he tells me,
Wow.
Don't watch what I do, listen to what I say, it's more important. And that's when I learned that even words have the power to heal.
And they do have the power to heal. They have the power to wound.
Oh, absolutely. It's a double-edged sword there.
Absolutely. So when you learned from this amazing healer, and did a light go on? Was it an epiphany of, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Well, it was more like, it's funny because I just found an old shoebox, and it has cassette tapes in it. And it was one of the first meetings I had with him. And he basically was saying, you may not be making it in this field. And I really wasn't. I mean, I'm so green. And he has it on a cassette because he's blind. He can't write. And the first thing he says is, you're not going to understand this, but maybe someday you will. But the way I work is I connect my subconscious mind to the universal mind or intelligence. And that's how I work. And this is in 1981. So, and at that time, he was already in business over 50 years. So that changed things right there. It took me 30 years to figure it out, but.
Interesting that it took so long, because you are in metaphysics, you incorporate metaphysics, and if you're using Chinese medicine in your practice as well, you would, it ties in together. Correct or no?
It ties in, but in the words that we use for metaphysics, I guess we use embodied intelligence. And it's the same thing, spirit and embodied intelligence. And so for me, in our philosophy, the truth of healing is when you can remove the barriers or the interference that blocks us access to this embodied intelligence. That's, the energy that heals a paper cut to broken bones. And so we support that intelligence rather than saying, I'm going to take it on myself and go after this either problem or dysfunction or disease. I'd rather support the big guy and say, hey, or big girl and say, I'd rather support you to help me take care of this.
The big androgynous spirit in the sky.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's more of a she, actually.
Well, it depends what's going on, right? So if you're having tsunamis or hurricanes or earthquakes, that to me would be more of the he energy.
There
But
you
when
go.
you're having more of the support, the gentleness, the waterfalls coming down, a gentle rain, that to me reminds me more of the she
Exactly.
part of the spiritual realm.
I guess I work more with the she. That's why.
Okay, well, that makes sense because you're healing. You're working on healing. And you
Exactly.
can't conquer and do the whole male thing if you're trying to heal someone. You need to come in with the feminine
Exactly.
and support it. So how does it, so you mentioned that, or I mentioned in the introduction, that you take from physical, people who have not been able to have physical healing success from other alternative or Western medicine. How does your technique work to help people who are having trouble finding the help that they need?
Exactly. Well, I work at, and no offense to fourth graders, I work at a fourth grade level or less, usually less. And so we look at it like this. If you have a light bulb and a fixture, and I'm the best lamp repair person in the world, and I'm focused on that, but there's a current that goes through also. And so in medicine, here's what they usually do. They usually focus on the light bulb and the fixture, and they just take it for granted that this current is running. On the other hand, some of the alternative people are just focused on the current, but don't recognize that there's a light bulb that needs to be replaced. So all we're doing is connecting the current to the fixture, and it just goes on.
I love the way that you present that because it's such a great visual. Well, a lot of it for me, when I can visualize it, then it's like, yeah, I get that. It makes it easier for me to connect.
Exactly. And it doesn't get that complicated. Although there's interferences that block this current. And that's where it gets, I guess, because we're not taught this, definitely we're not taught this in school, that what blocks what causes this interference. Education is one of the biggest blocks to it.
That's interesting. So how do we, sidestep the education to get to the understanding of this powerful modality that you do?
Sure. I mean, this is really cool. I have a bunch of Ivy Leaguers right now because what I do is all based on objective numbers. We have to have something. We have to see a change in blood work. We have to see a change in whatever, even finances. So their education tells them I can outthink or I can do it better than this embodied intelligence.
Right.
So that blocks it right there. And so here's the line I use with them, that you're guided by intuition, which is part of or the communication system of this embodied intelligence, and you're supported by intellect. Now that they do that and make that slight shift, they can utilize that nickel they put into Wharton or so and really make a go of it.
That's so funny. And so what are you doing with these Ivy Leaguers? That you have to get them to open, because you want to open their flow so
Yeah,
they can
exactly.
heal.
And so when we have them shift out of that, now they see, hey, my cholesterol just dropped, 100 points in 3 weeks, or hey, the idea of using, intuition and have it supported by my intellect, I made a couple deals that really took off during COVID, and now I probably made more money in the last 3 months than I could have in a bunch of years.
That's amazing. That truly is amazing. And so, but this technique helps with depression, sadness, which I'm sure you're seeing a lot of right now.
Well, it's kind of counterintuitive. So I don't do any kind of psychological type of counseling or anything. Matter of fact, we don't use it at all. But we used to use it for performance. So this was for athletes back in the day. It was pre-steroid era. It was like U.S. versus the world or U.S. versus the communist. And how can you now gain better focus and performance? And this is where the application, or a lot of the application, came from. So we do it the same way in here. We have clients that even though they're going to be on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people, that they still have stage fright. So there's a way of what we call imagery prompt, where they can get into a certain state prior to going on stage, and they crush it after that. But we can tell in the body. We can tell in the body. There's certain patterns in the body that we can touch or feel. If they're overthinking, I guarantee the top of their foot is really tender.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Oh yeah. In old martial arts and even tea ceremonies, you know how they would sit on their feet? It's called zazen. I mean, I'm sweating after 15 minutes of that, and to this day. But that shows you're overthinking. But that's to get you to settle. You're in this great posture, your mind's calm, and you're sitting back on your feet. But that's, I'll touch certain points on the body, and it gives us concrete evidence that something's going on.
Interesting. So that you touch the top of the feet.
Top of the feet. We check, the abdomen. One of the original.
I'm feeling.
Well, the original one, we're looking at different valves in the gut area, the cardiac sphincter, the ileocecal valve. There's places that you can push on or touch on that are their adrenal systems or their kidneys, which represents either fear or looping.
But you also do this distance way. There's a distance healing modality, correct?
We do, in the sense of our telesessions or telehealth, although we have them tap into their own innate or their own in-body intelligence. I do it in a ways because I set that intention. And I did flower arranging for 8 years.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, at a very high. I mean, what nut these days would have a practice and say, well, I better close this up because I had advice that I'm not getting any better, and I better learn flower arranging to learn balance, beauty, and symmetry. It's they call it feng shui. It's utilizing numbers and quadrants and colors that support, and nothing holds intention more powerfully than flowers.
That's interesting. Explain, please, how that is.
The flowers have a certain dynamic and energy to them. And we're talking cut flowers.
Roses, orchids.
Exactly.
Etc.
So you set your intention into these flowers, and then you learn the mechanics also. There's quadrants. You fulfill all 4 quadrants. You don't want things to look symmetrical. You want colors that support each other. This is the way we do something called cranial work. It's all geometry in the face. So we can tell the torsions in the face, and we can tell if they're clenching on one side versus the other, or if it's a blocked airway, or what's the reason for this. And so you clear that, and you look at the body in terms of symmetry. There's this biological geometry that you balance to create this. And then we see the flow happening, even in motion and posture. So Hippocrates said it best. He said, walking is your best medicine. He's absolutely right.
Okay, interesting. So explain. The walking is your best medicine. I agree, but just so other people can understand as well.
There's a whole set of postures that we go back to a primal type of posture. And not to put down any of the physical therapy schools or schools that teach posture, but if they go back to like the indigenous people and look at the way they move, it's completely different. It's not biomechanical. So there's a different way of motion. There's a lightness, a fluidity to their motion, and even more so, there's a groundedness. And that's even more powerful. That whatever's happening in the outside forces, it's not going to affect my internal physiology.
Interesting. This is really fascinating.
If you really want to get to it, Marla, this has nothing to do with posture. It has to do with lymphatic flow and organ function. And even at a higher level, you become a bio live wire where you're this perfect antenna. It's like yoga. Yoga's real purpose isn't just to fit into those Lululemon or lemon.
I call it lemon too. It's lemon.
It's lemon. I mean, what would they call Lululemon? I thought it was lemon. I think I've had a couple clients say that, and it's stuck in my head.
I say that too.
There you go. But that's the calisthenic part of yoga, is to make me look trimmer, look looser. But truly, it's like martial arts. They didn't do psychotherapy in the old days in Asia. You did it through the somatics. You did it through meditation. You did it through martial arts and yoga. So you are actually becoming this live wire where you're uploading and downloading information.
So, but yoga is also, you sort of massage your internal organs by the twists and the turns,
Absolutely.
postures.
Absolutely. But the organs all have a function. There's a frequency to each organ system. And when it lines up, I have all my clients, they do 45 minutes cumulative at least daily. And it's not just I got to walk 20 minutes a day and it's drudgery. It's more, this is my time to upload and download.
Okay, so I've just got a power plate for a gift.
Okay.
So, all the vibrating, I feel, is really good for moving the organs as well.
Sure.
I mean, if you don't have an hour to spend, 10 minutes of vibrating does an amazing job, I think.
I think they're great. We have one right here.
Oh, do you too?
Oh, yeah, we utilize that. On the other hand, there's something about the motion. And when you get into this flow or this motion, the lymphatics really move. I mean, the thing is with lymphatics, your calves are considered your peripheral heart. So when the calves are squeezing and pumping, it's moving the lymphatics back to your torso. That's why your feet get swollen when you go on a long plane trip.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So that's where you might not get that full motion from vibrating. I mean, it has a function, don't get me wrong. But there's something about when you start moving.
Oops, sorry about that. Now I've got a... Cliff, you can finish. I'm going to just mute myself for a minute.
Okay. There's something about the motion when you're going like kind of a cross crawl type of pattern and you're moving your system. Especially the most important thing for us is the diaphragm is moving. I mean,
okay, I can't talk. The diaphragm, because you're because the in and out motion around it, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bellow, when you for a fireplace type of bellow. Yeah. But we look at it more than just the function. So I can tell a C-section adult in about 10 seconds by the way the diaphragm moves. Yeah, the diaphragm doesn't move. It's the upper chest and the upper chest and stomach moves, because when they get C-section, that first breath is like coming out of a burning building, right? You don't just get a C-section for the heck of it.
No.
So that first breath is like, and so they learn to breathe from the upper chest and the stomach, and so they're stuck below the level of awareness in this hyper arousal state. That affects their sensory motor, how they move. They kind of have more flailing type of motions, and they're medically, they're kind of stuck in the amygdala. They're in this hyper-aroused state.
So walking helps work with that, correct?
Well, we utilize a method, and I promised this woman, her name is Linda Scottson from London, and she works a lot with just diaphragmatic movement, not the breath. The breath is too complicated at first. And there's some really good people doing, breath work. There's this guy named Wim Hof or something like that.
I've heard of Wim Hof, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he does this, hyperventilation type breath. Breathe it in, let it out. And it's good, but, they've been using these kind of methods for eons. In martial arts, you'd had to sit in a frozen spring lake but it was all in the breath. But nowadays, if you don't know how to, especially for C-section adults, they don't know how to use the diaphragm yet. So you take them out of the limbic system or the emotional center to what we call the prefrontal cortex. It's kind of that sigh of relief type of breath or motion in the diaphragm. And now I get into cognition. I can think my way.
Oh, fascinating. Cliff, we're going to go on hold for just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned, everyone. Thanks for hanging in.
All right, great. All clear?
Thanks, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Okay.
Hello. I'm late.
No worries. We started without you.
Yep, I assume you did. Just when the show gets over, just send me the video file, and that way I can get the first minutes that I missed there.
Perfect. Will do. All right. Thanks. This is so fascinating. I have to share. This is, and you can do this distance in a distance way.
You set your intention just like you work with the flowers. I mean, the clients we had with the flowers, I mean, I can't tell you all of them, but when they finally found us, this was my ex-wife and I, and it went, from Elon Musk's group to Virgin Atlantic to the Himalayan Society with the Dalai Lama. And so, I mean, we started with the flowers at little Asian grocery stores. And they used to put our flowers next to the heated foods by the lamps. It's like, hey, they're going to die in 10 minutes. But it progresses because there's a progression to that. We call it a spring, stream, river, ocean. You're gaining knowledge in measured steps. That's how water levels or flows. And so that's why we're able to, you can create businesses or relationships or whatever, but it runs in small measured steps.
That's absolutely fascinating.
The water always levels to the ocean effortlessly. Its intention isn't to get there, but it just levels there. It's really the most amazing substance, I've ever seen.
It does level. And watching the ocean is amazing. It's so meditative. It's calming. Exactly. It's peaceful.
Absolutely.
So this is just such an interesting, fascinating modality.
You know what? When they make that connection, I can tap them on the butt with a shovel and they get better.
That's so interesting.
Really, it just connects. I'm more removing the interference than I'm actually doing something. I'm supporting this bigger force rather than saying, I'm going to do this.
Right.
All right, Marla, we're just about to come back.
Perfect. Thanks.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. If you've just tuned in, I'm Marla Goldberg, and I'm here today with Cliff Matsuno. Cliff is an integrative manual therapist and a somatic physical therapist as well. And his approach views the body's dysfunction or pain patterns as a reflection of specific mental or behavioral imbalances, along with physical pathology. He treats complex or comprehensive clients who have not gotten results from either a traditional or alternative healthcare. And he's been doing it just a few years, maybe a little over 40. So wow. Welcome back, Cliff.
Thank you, Marla.
But I also want to let the audience know, if you've got a problem that you haven't been able to solve, feel free to call in at 888-346-9141 and ask Cliff a question. So how long does it take when you start working with a client? Is it like a 5-session, thing, 10-session on an average? I know everything is individual, but
usually 1 to 3.
Wow.
If I can do it in 1, we try to do it in 1. I mean, this is the standards. Like I said, when I was in the Bay Area, the people I ran into, I mean, if it started taking longer, they would get on my case. The mentors and sifus and teachers that I work with, it's like, what do you need? You need new tires? Is this why it's taking so long? Or, it's like, or in Chinglish, they just say, you terrible. You just terrible. What is it? Are you just lazy or stupid, or you just don't get it? Or you're trying to make that connection. Oh yeah, I was kind of an alley cat too. So I pushed against them, or I yanked their chain a little bit. So,
okay.
But the standards were pretty high. You're just trying to make that connection happen right away.
Well, I think the ultimate goal for any healer, especially an alternative healer, is to get a client opened and flowing so they can live their divine life sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Although 40 years ago, because we were doing things so differently, and even though we're part of the medical system, we had to show the efficacy, both in terms of clinical and cost-wise. because this wasn't this, insurance isn't going to pay for this.
Right. That they won't pay for that. That's for sure. So what do you do with your skeptical clients? The people who come in because somebody told them that you do this amazing work, but it's like, okay, prove it to me, show me. And they're really sort of blocking their own way mentally with that.
Sure. So we use objective values. So they come in, we show them that their core, a lot of people are in, stabilizing your core, develop your core, and we get that. On the other hand, we test their core our way. And it's not your muscle testing, applied kinesiology type. It's actually pure core. And they can't stabilize it because they have too many open files in their mind. And so their mind is doing all these things. The limbic system and the core is one and the same thing. So that's why an athlete, when they're in that hyper-aroused state, they're either mad at the ref or another player. Coaches know to get them out of the game because they're going to blow a knee or an ankle. There's no stability. And so when we even see clients who unfortunately had a stroke near the limbic system or the emotional center, they're the least ones that start walking right away because they don't have that stability.
Right.
So that's why even for performance in athletes, it's about closing files mentally. And when you close the main file, all the sub-files close. And then the cerebellum or the brain just figures it out. Okay, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I had 40, 50 open files on my computer. It's draining my memory and glitch in the system.
That is so fascinating. So I know you have a technique about ear cleaning. Is that what it is that you're going to share?
Yes, it's basically, it's how to get the lymphatics to flow. One of my clients, and we had her prepped for a photo shoot. And so, it's about moving the lymphatics and balancing the face, and ear is part of it because you have to start with the lymphatics, and it kind of gets you out of brain fog also. So there's 2 points on the second rib, and if you rub those, it's kind of sensitive.
Second rib. Wait, I'm trying to find it.
You'll find it's kind of right down the midline, just to the side, just below the clavicle.
Okay, clever. I got
That's
it.
usually a little sensitive right there. And that's the beginning of kind of opening up the lymphatic system for your face and the neck. So our goal is to give this trim looking, so the expression of vitality is actually balance, beauty also, and symmetry.
Okay.
So then you start stroking down the throat this way, then one-sided, on both sides.
And you just do this very gently, like feather
Very
touching.
gently, very gently. And then down the face. But here's the key. You have to move your fingers like this.
When you're going down your face?
Now, this is the last part of it. I know. So as you do this to your face, it'll wake you right up. Because, technically a dry brush mechanically doesn't drain your lymphatics. Mechanically, it stimulates the lymphatics to move.
Okay. I've had
So
the
as you
dry
do
brushing.
that, exactly. And then the main thing, there's what we call a submandibular gland, and there's just so much, especially in California, there's so much smoke in the air.
Oh my God, yes, those poor people.
Yeah.
And the animals.
And the animals. So what we do is we drain. You'll feel them. Sometimes there might be a little swollen, but you can pull back a little bit and then sweep down like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you just get some water and you have this, what we call like a bolus of water in your mouth. And then you just clear your ears.
By holding your nose, clear your ears?
Hold your nose, and then you'll might hear a little pop. What happens then the eustachian tube opens.
Oh, that's amazing.
And you get a little clearing. The sound might be a little clearer. There's other techniques that go with this that help people with tinnitus or a little bit of lack of hearing. A lot of times
people with both of those, that would be great help. I think a video. I'm seeing a YouTube video from you, Cliff, being made. And
there you go. Well, it's funny because one of my clients, and she's the one that said, "Why don't you do this conscious beauty type of thing?" Because this is, and it started for us when someone would star the windshield or had a contusion to the face, and we develop all the face muscles and the tongue muscles, but it's the whole lower quadrant, show lymphatics, And I would say 9 times out of 10, the client would say, I look better now than before the accident. So now I do have clients come in before their photo shoots and auditions and things like that.
Wow, I need to be living in California so I can come in.
Well, the face is all based on geometry. So the original part of craniosacral was the Greek midwives. They would balance the little kids' faces based on geometry, midline here to the chin, here, height of the cheekbones, the eye. It's not the outside structure, it's the cranial structures. It's called head molding.
So when do they do this? At what age would they do this with a child?
Oh, they would do this right away. I mean, you're talking
at birth.
Yeah, you're talking
come through the
intention.
canal.
As soon as they come in, sometimes they have these cone heads, or
Yes.
heads are misshapen. Yeah. So the osteopaths developed something called craniosacral therapy, but the original form was, you can just mold it. And, these kids with these cone heads, we've seen them look like little Target ads after 3 months. I've had one person say I owe him $3,000 because he just had custom-made earplugs and he's on stage. And he basically said I owe him $3,000 because after that treatment, his earplugs don't fit anymore.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But it shifts. Otherwise, our head would be just a bowling ball with 2 eyes cut out. We have all these sutures, and they're very plastic. The head is very mobile.
I was not aware of that. So we can lift my cheekbones a little bit?
Sure. On the other hand, the secret to all this is you have to have a strong narrative that holds your facial structures. You have to have that. We call it a smiling heart technique.
Oh, what's the smiling heart technique? Is it something you can share?
Sure. You make your heart smile, but you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you make your heart smile. If you really make your heart smile times 10, then it shows up on the camera during the non-dialogue portions.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, you get an authentic smile. This is a martial arts thing because it raises your energy. It raises your chi or the organ systems.
So I know heart breathing. I know love breathing.
Uh-huh.
So would that be similar?
This is sort of like that, but you're just making your heart smile. So you get this, we get people who are in front of the camera 4 to 6 hours a day, and all of a sudden, their pictures look like a bad bridesmaid photo. It's like.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So you get this authentic smile, and then when you do that, now on the other hand, we have clients we do this for that have autoimmune, or some unfortunately have, some other issues, but it raises your T cell levels. So remember I said the objective values?
Yes.
By doing this, you'll see it takes the edge off. You get your diaphragm to move and make your heart smile. The objective values in blood work, we can see better indicators that there is logic to this.
So to make your heart smile, I mean, you just intend for your heart to smile? Because I know with the heart breathing that I've been taught, you go down to your first chakra, you bring your air down to your first chakra with the intention of, bringing in love or, whatever you're bringing in, and then you bring it to your heart and then you breathe it out. So it's sort of like you breathe in love down to the first chakra, up to your heart, breathe it out. Would it be similar to something like that with making your heart smile with the intention of making your heart feel happy?
Well, lately, remember, I work so simple that
yes,
it's just like if you could think of something funny in a movie or some kind of series, or lately we have a run on old Gilmore Girls. It's something that makes them laugh, and then they think of it and just like you're telling a joke to your heart.
Okay.
And anytime I feel some kind of anxiety or feel this little type of, outside forces influencing me, then I just go into making my heart smile. So our goal is to really make people, all our clients, the goal is to make them grounded like a freaking mountain. So nothing on the outside affects the inside. We tell them it's like being a python. You can be intense on the outside, but completely physically calm on the inside.
I like that. Well, considering my first number in Chinese astrology is in the 9-star key is 8.
Oh,
I understand the mountain.
Oh yeah, you got the big one.
I've got the big one. So it's pretty funny. So How did you learn these methods? I mean, you went to, how many different practitioners did you, I know you learned from the blind practitioner, the
The
blind
blind
healer.
practitioner, also a lot from medical anthropologists.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
work with, he's part of the charity I have. It's Preservation of Medical Traditions. Elaine Twade and Manuela Appetiti. They're amazing, amazing folks. And they have the largest collection of books of Greek medical antiquity at the Huntington Library here.
Wow.
And so there's nothing new. If you think of something new, like, what do they call it, sound baths? They were doing that during Greek times. You think they're just playing the harp? They were using chords for certain frequencies for different organ systems. And it's in the books.
I love that. So 528 would be like, I'm just going to pull, I'm not a music person, but a C.
Exactly.
Just hypothetically.
Sure.
Or 428 would be a D.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it goes back into, I forgot the Gregorian chants, and they were all done for a reason, to get into a certain state.
That's, and I can understand it, because when you get into the state, you leave your physical body in a sense.
Exactly. And to me, they were the best people who knew. The Greeks and the Chinese communicated through the Silk Road. So actually, Greek medicine and Chinese medicine is, if not the same, extremely similar.
Isn't that interesting how spirit works? Because I do believe that's a spiritual thing, that when, they give more than one person the same idea, so that they're able to, whoever, I guess, is able to flush it out quicker or in more detail.
Exactly.
Can take ownership.
We hear of, Chinese medicine or Chinese medical anthropology, but we don't hear too much of the Western part. And Hippocrates, and that's the beginning of Western medicine. But it kind of took this weird evolution, by coming here. Back then it was all natural, and now it's kind of deviated a little bit,
I think
quite
it's
a bit.
Deviated a lot.
Yeah, big time.
So can you tell us a quick story of somebody who, came in with something really challenging, and that you were able to give them back a better life than when they walked in or before they had their challenge?
Sure. One person in particular came in with an ankle issue, and they had a rod in their ankle, and they also had a quadruple bypass 15 years ago. And technically, at 10 years, it's pretty much did its job. And so he wanted to learn some methods as to, how can I put less stress on my heart? How do I decrease my blood pressure? And what have you. So there are mechanical ways of helping people reduce their blood pressure. If we get more rotation in the neck, and it's really light, very gentle, and it's also a lot has to do with the first cervical vertebrae, which is amazing in itself. I mean, I've done a lot of research on this, and the chiropractors definitely know this, especially the upper cervical ones. But once you establish that rotation, it takes away this pressure that my heart needs to get more blood to my brain. So automatically, when they get off the table, it's like, wow, my systolic and diastolic pressures went down. Matter of fact, the cardiologist that invited me to their office, because now his ejection study on his heart is better now than it was 15 years ago.
Wow. That's a great story.
But yet he learned, we use biometrics. So we use something called heart math. We clip it onto their ear, and it measures how much energy is coming off the heart. And can they bring that energy down? Along with, use a standard blood pressure cuff and pulse oximeter. But we get them into guided or embodied imagery, because your body doesn't know the difference to what's real, what's imaginary, or symbolic. We give everybody dots, and they put it on their cell phones or their refrigerators. It's to change their state. And nowadays, virtual. So your body will respond to it. So once they train their bodies to respond to that and become really grounded to the outside forces, then the body will repair itself. So somehow its body repaired itself.
I think that is so cool. We need to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll be back with Cliff Matsuno very soon. Stay tuned.
Okay, nicely done. All clear. Back into.
Thank you. That is so fascinating. Okay, and as you're talking, I'm going, I need to come to LA. I need to have this done just because I think anybody needs to, anybody can use a tune-up.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we do. We do a number of tune-ups. We don't look at somebody coming in the conventional model of you need 2 to 3 times a week for 6 to 8 weeks. Even something as can be complicated as a frozen shoulder.
Yes.
It mainly happens to women. It's mainly on the left side.
Yes.
And it's mainly because of the pancreas, and they have too much sugar in their system.
Interesting.
The body will put the sugar in the shoulder and detonate it so that they get this massive inflammation, and then it freezes on them. But the issue, if you want to get to the root cause, isn't the sugar. The root cause is they're not getting enough sweetness in their life. They have to be able to create that frequency. So they're using sugar as an adjunct to balance their emotions. So they're what we call a dopamine hit.
Interesting.
So when we bring that to their awareness and then have them reduce their sugar by 50% the first 2 weeks, and then the second time, 50% again, we show them their exercises and we work on their, we have to mobilize their shoulder. We can get it done in like 3 to 5 visits, where sometimes it's supposed to take 2 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
We alkalize their system too. We give them on lemon water a lot.
Okay.
So,
which is helpful. It's necessary.
So you're balancing mind, body, and behavior. So the behavior is to decrease their sugar intake. Their mind or their perception is to create their own sweetness. Find that, joy in whatever they're doing, or get into that state.
See, I don't know if you know of a book, because I don't, that would say, for example, what you just said about frozen shoulder, it's saying you need more sweetness equals need more sweetness in your life, things to do. That would be a fascinating thing to have, like an encyclopedia of causes and how you can offset them, or what's missing, causes and why you're having those issues.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, I didn't know anything about this. It was Don who taught me this. And he would just bombard me. Did you tell them? Did you bring it to their awareness?
All right.
That's part of their home exercise.
All right. Coming back. Stand by.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you are invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking around. If you've just tuned in, I'm talking to Cliff Matsuno. Cliff is an integrative manual therapist. He works with somatic physical therapy, and even more than that. I mean, what he does is phenomenal. And his approach, the way they view the body's dysfunction or pain patterns, is a reflection of a specific or mental behavioral imbalance. And they work with that along with physical pathology. Let's welcome Cliff back. How are you doing, Cliff?
Hey, thank you, Marla. Pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm loving this conversation. But before we move forward, it's charity shout-out time. So
Okay.
This is the time when we talk about your charity of choice, which is Institute of the Preservation of Medical Traditions. That's a long one.
That's a long one. It's 2 people, Dr. Tuwade or Elaine, and his wife, Emanuela Appetiti. Brilliant scholars. They have the largest personal collection of books of Greek medical antiquity. And within the books, there's so much similarities to Greek and Chinese medicine. They were communicating through the Silk Road. And I think there was even a story about Hippocrates being called, I think his name is Chibo in Chinese. And he was the consultant to the Yellow Emperor who created the documentation for Chinese medicine.
Oh, interesting. And so the Institute does what? It just maintains these antiquated medical Greek journals or books?
Not only that, but they train people from all over the world. So we'll meet sometimes in Greece. was with them in Patras. And so these scholars from all over the world will come. And now the cosmetic people are coming because it's about phytocosmetics or natural cosmetics. I mean, they finally clued in that your skin is a detoxifying organ, and they've been putting things on their skin that maybe not as natural.
As they say it is.
Yeah. It's our biggest detox organ around, and we're putting, things that are not, really that natural or good for you. So they're interested also into what they used in the past. What did Cleopatra use?
That's true. And she was supposed to be a beauty.
She was supposed to be someone like that.
Yeah, definitely a very dynamic woman.
Absolutely. So it goes back that far. And we look at this, at one point we thought there was going to be this magic herb or magic leaf from the rainforest that's the cure-all. To us, it's the books. And they have that ability to pull things out from, whether it's music, you want to hear music therapy, they know all about that.
Because the Greeks
knew
music
it.
therapy, music healing, sound healing.
Ways of treating the mind, like just using different herbs that you just rub on your hands.
That's amazing.
You just smell it and it opens up the circuits in your brain, and now we can finally prove it objectively.
Aromatherapy. We can put names to all of these practices that are in the book.
Absolutely. Sleep therapy, sleep interpretation, to supposedly they had 100 exercises that you would do daily, and they didn't Photoshop those Greek bodies. They were
those were real.
It was balance, beauty, and symmetry for the Greeks. And back in the day, they had these 100 exercises, and they were into that.
I wish I had time for 100 exercises.
I know. Who has time for that these days?
I don't know. But you can reach them at paypal.com/fundraiser/charity 222-8277. So do they have a website?
They have a website. Yes, they do. And they're very low key, and they're scholars. It's different. They're not business people. They're scholars. They have so much valuable information, and I can't tell you what. It's so amazing what they have. I go in there with them at the Huntington, and some of these books they're so old, and there's maybe a page is torn and it's stitched in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. At some point, somebody's going to need to make copies just so you have the information before, you can't, resurrect the pages again.
Exactly.
Because at some point it gets to be like that.
Absolutely. There's so much value into what was written back in the day. And, for me, it's now pivoting over to teaching too. Someone said, hey, well, the way you're going to go the way of Greek medicine also, because I'm kind of the last of them. If you want to call it even the last samurai or last whatever.
I love that.
All my teachers have kind of transitioned over already.
And you're also going to be starting your own podcast called Radical Chi.
Radical Chi.
And so where do people find Chair? When is it going to start? Where do they find it?
Well, they can come to our website at cliffmatsuno.com. On the other hand, with Radical Chi, it's a term we used, and it's the energy in the air. We're into this new normal, and we're forced to change. And the kind of people that I work with, the ones in the trenches, you don't hear about us. I didn't even have a website till February. and it wasn't that I was behind the times. I mean,
you were busy. You were full. Your practice was full.
Yeah, I worked with all the people in Silicon Valley. The first 100 people from Apple were clients, and so it wasn't that I was adverse to technology. It's just that it wasn't my time, or to be honest, it wasn't. People weren't miracle-minded enough to talk to them, to be honest.
Okay.
Because we taught at Stanford in 1991 with Don, the person I was talking to. 100 people came. They brought 5 people who, chronic issues, and he went 3 for 5 in one visit.
Wow.
on the other hand, nobody wanted to learn this.
So it's becoming a lost art.
It's becoming a lost art, but people weren't ready for it. It wasn't the time. Now we see, you want to hear cool people, Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Generation Zs, they can cut through the BS and look on the website and they know this is no good. This is no good. This is a sales job. Whoa. And they're coming to me, and one person came to me going, she does marketing for social media. And she actually booked an appointment. Nothing was really wrong with her, but she wanted to see how do you do a business without a website and social media handles.
Interesting.
And
So look, he's saying I want to come just for a tune-up, for you to check, tune me up, and
exactly
optimize me.
But they're really interesting. I hate to call them kids, but yeah, they're just really brilliant. They're different. They almost remind me of kids from the 50s, and I'm a kid from the 50s.
Well, I think that they're coming into a lighter frequency. The veils are lifting, so they're coming into lighter times, which gives them abilities that were harder for us because it was denser at the time. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And they come in with an iPhone 6. I mean, they have a business phone, and it's like, I go, that phone's pretty old. What are you doing with it? And it's like, well, there's just too much distractions on, for my personal use. I'd rather just get things done. So
wow.
They're a whole different type of generation that it's actually very refreshing. I mean, I'm not saying that the millennials didn't catch it, but they're still kind of part of the herd. The Zs they're the ones that are looking at things a little differently. It's
independent thinkers?
What's that?
More like independent thinkers?
Very independent thinkers.
To receiving, they're open to new concepts, etc.
Absolutely. They're just really interesting group. And I've been getting a number of them contacting me and talking with them. And, some of the things they say or know already, it's really amazing.
Well, I don't know why. I keep getting this intuitive thing saying that you need to get videos down or some, like you said, teaching to pass this along, because it sounds like we shouldn't lose this technique, these abilities.
Exactly. And it's all coming down to just being authentic, but it's not easy. I mean, part of our gait training and walking and posture, the saying that we use I use is everything revealed, nothing withheld for those who stand upright. And it's a metaphor. It's basically when you stand upright, whether it's because of an ankle problem or a back problem, now you're becoming authentic and expressing your talents, your desires, and actually your boundaries. That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And Cliff, I hate to say it, we have to wind up the show. You have so much amazing conversation yet to be had, I know. But I want to thank you for taking the time to be on Guided Spirit Conversations. I appreciate you. I appreciate your conversation and the enlightenment you've given me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So to reach Cliff Matsuno, Matsuno.com, his new website. And please check out Radical Chi. Where do we find Radical Chi, Cliff? Where is it going to be broadcast?
We haven't quite organized that yet, but we should know that by the end of the week.
Okay, but you'll put it on your website when
we'll have it on the website.
Perfect. So Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to put a thanks out to Voice America, everything you do to get the show up and running for me. I want to thank Bridget, my assistant, my right arm, my left arm. Don't know what I'd do without you. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking the time out of your day to be a participant in this podcast, because this is done to give you information and insight to people you may not necessarily have the opportunity to know about, like Cliff, who just had his first website in February. So, but he's obviously very well known because people are booking him and have been. So I want to thank you. I hope you enjoy your holiday season, but I implore once again to be socially considerate. Wear your masks, wash your hands, keep your distance, because you don't want to give anybody anything, and you definitely don't want anybody to give a gift to you that you don't want, which is an illness. So stay well until the next time. As always, I send you love, I send you blessings. I send you gratitude. You are loved. Stay well. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.